Good evening, Zimbabwe. This is Change Radio News. Today is Tuesday, 23 September 2025. The news is read by Divine Nambira. Here are the news headlines. President Chamisa hints at major political shift, the birth of a new great Zimbabwe. Citizens warned not to be distracted by ZANU-PF factional fights, and Honorable Chibaya blames government for economic and healthcare collapse. And now for the news in detail. Citizens leader Advocate Nelson Chamisa has posted a cryptic message on social media suggesting a major political shift is imminent. In a post titled "The Echoes of the New," President Chamisa compared the current political atmosphere to the quiet beginnings of a pregnancy, hinting that a celebratory national awakening is near. He concluded with the phrase, "Happy birthday, new nation. Welcome a great Zimbabwe indeed." Political analysts are interpreting this as a signal that Chamisa is preparing to announce a new political initiative. Political analysts are warning citizens not to be distracted by ZANU-PF's internal factional wars, but to focus on defending the constitution and preparing for change under President Nelson Chamisa. The warning comes as ZANU-PF party infighting intensifies ahead of its conference next month. Yesterday, spokesperson Christopher Muchangwa indirectly attacked party Vice President Constantino Chiwenga for criticizing controversial businessmen Kudakwashe Tagwirei and Wicknell Chivayo. This follows a Politburo meeting where Chiwenga allegedly spoke out against state capture and corruption. Analysts have dismissed Muchangwa's sudden defense of Tagwirei as a reversal, describing him as a failed politician who is now, in their words, singing for his supper. Honorable Amos Chibaya has blamed government negligence for the collapse of the economy and public health care. He was speaking yesterday in Bindura at a memorial for opposition official Taurai Chiveso, linking the failures to Chiveso's death. Chiveso, who served as Bindura's organizing secretary for 10 years, passed away in South Africa last week after a short illness. At the service, Chibaya also condemned ongoing politically motivated violence which he linked to ZANU-PF, saying it continues to endanger opposition supporters. Let's hear him as he speaks.
Way back 1999-2000. Pamela kuma pressing, Pamela kuma electrical zari UK. Those are the shasha. So kutumuno mpindura, muna munika, muna neshandu kwe kutashi. The guy ni kama tadi wa Zimpan. Marona ama tredu tete chanu ferete zesa wa Zimpan. I'm so mfundi suwedu. Ndi mwa ifeka pinete kudenga. Being left somewhere, talk tonight. But the selection one, who kind of Saranta Malariko, Nisoka, who kind of Zion Malariko, who kind of Metapist Malariko, the Lord of the Tango Zumboino. I see Mosha, Kusiana, Masungiro, Panaya, Jonathan Renita. Rana Zimbabwe, to the Willie Wachate, Bumbari Wachate, Mupundra Machete. Kana utinda kupati yako, enda, utinda kupati yako, enda. I see Mosha Amen, amen. Chatila shola mnuminika yedu. Atidi wanu wanuruwana nila tumatungolenika. Mwuta mnuruwana paya muna kangasha ikangoza hindi kuno kutuma ino enda kuno kunewa obeamu. Amen, amen. So nawe pana Andre Gustavo. Datuma pano na Chamisa pamkomatao. Wachamisa palanga wali hivo mutinamiriri wachidoko kufanana 2000 wala mkoma tau no wanani organiza ekuno kupindua alimuze wachisanga na wachamisa saka wachamisa watu Chibaya chienda kupindura wenda kunewa mwuri wana samatiko angu ena yaki kutiwedu we wangu rusumura wa mara bakatile kishakari kutawe kutibai shushakambia shakana kama tajua wanamai mukoma na wadutau watoba tose tulifano zina tangu ranga da ajisada ku mupizira mtawe zina tangu ranga da ajisada ku harari nisoka tangu baji silifano so matikamu dokungo tuyo zoezi wani mukoma na wadutau kutumika inake kana nikanaka inakirira nwapo sio mtete ilo nakira mnuwe saruniko.
Teacher unions say several schools across Zimbabwe are unprepared for final exams due to poor infrastructure and financial challenges. ZIMTA Secretary General Goodwill Taderera says many primary and secondary schools are struggling to pay staff and utility bills. He also raised concern over learners who haven't paid school fees during the critical examination period. Although government recently released 40 billion ZiG under the Basic Education Assistance Module to cover gaps from 2023, unions argue the funding came too late to ease current pressures. The Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, R2s, is demanding urgent government action to address a severe education crisis. The union highlights the suburb of Hopley, home to over 200,000 people, which has no secondary school. This forces children into unsafe travel and leads to high dropout rates. R2s is calling for a teacher's salary of $1,260 and for the government to fulfill its pledge to build a school in Hopley. They warn that neglecting education fuels social problems like drug abuse. Change Radio spoke to the union's communications secretary Tembakunye Mapepa Moyo. Let's hear him speak.
On Saturday, Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe held a community meeting in Hopley to engage parents, teachers and learners on the right to education. Hopley, that has residents closer or above 200,000 residents, has no secondary school, which forces learners or which compels learners to travel long distances using public transport, exposed to a lot of abuses, dropouts, drug abuse, and learners have no time to rest. Few that continue going to school earnestly. We hope the school the government is promising will give quality education, will also help learners not to be exposed in various situations we mentioned above. But for learners to get quality education, the government must pay teachers. And as Atuz were saying, the minimum the government can pay a teacher or a civil servant is 1,260 US dollars. This is the minimum that we think can assist or can alleviate teachers from the poverty that we experience today. Spokesperson.
Let's also hear from R2's Vice Secretary General, Mr. Munyaradzi Masiwa.
It's quite disturbing that the government continue to neglect our communities with regards to availability of schools. The government is reluctant to avail affordable and quality educational facilities in our schools. We realize that in Hopley, it's about more than 2 decades now. Hopley does not have a secondary school to talk about. Hopley houses about 200,000 residents, which means that a lot of learners are denied an opportunity to continue with education when they complete a grade 7. So this means that the few that afford transport can go and look for secondary schools elsewhere. That is to say, in the next locations or in boarding schools. This leaves children of parents who have got a poor background without a choice than to make their children drop out of school. But we appreciate effort that has been made by citizens from Hopley, effort that has been made by R2s also in exposing these anomaly circumstances. And we realize that Taunganandor has responded and pointed out that they will look into the issue and will make sure that there will be a secondary school in Hopley. But we would want to correct his statement where he mentions that no one is being left behind. We realize that for 2 decades that has passed, a lot of learners have been left behind, and there is no compensation to that. And we want to continue advising the government that they need to make sure that when a new location is being built elsewhere, they need to consider availability of enough schools to accommodate all learners with that regard. And we continue to appeal to the government to look and pay particular attention to a petition that has been submitted by the residents of Hopley area.
Parliament is holding public hearings on 2 new bills, the Public Service Amendment Bill and the Occupational Safety and Health Bill. The hearings run from September 22nd to the 30th. We now hear from a member of the Portfolio Committee, MP Collins Bajila.
My name is Jason Collins Bajila. I'm the Member of Parliament for Emakandeni constituency. I also sit in the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare. We will be conducting public hearings on the Occupational Safety and Health Bill as well as the Public Service Amendment Bill. Our first meeting is going to be at Lupane Hall at 9 a.m. on Monday, the 22nd of September 2025. The second one is going to be also in Lupane, looking at the Public Service Amendment Bill on the same day. On Tuesday, we will proceed to Kwanda, where at 9:30 we will have our first meeting on the Occupational Health and Safety Bill at Kwanda Chitauto Hall. We will proceed to do the Public Service Amendment Bill, the same place in Kwanda, on the same day at 10 a.m. Then on the following day, that is a Wednesday, we will be in Bulawayo at 9 a.m. at Selborne Hotel, where we will be focusing on the Public Service Amendment Bill. And then at 11:30, we will focus on the Occupational Safety and Health Bill. Basically, the Occupational Safety and Health Bill seeks to abolish 2 laws that were focusing on what happens with workplace injuries. The first one is what is called the Pneumoconiosis Act of 1971, as well as the Factories and Works Act of 1948. These 2 laws have become obsolete what used to cause work injuries in 1948 and in 1971 is no longer a big issue today. We have new big issues, hence the amendment. We are also looking at the Public Service Amendment Act, which seeks to amend the existing Public Service Amendment. What we are seeking to do is that we need to change how public service works, specifically on issues of how pregnant women get to access their maternity leave, but also to look at compelling public servants at certain levels of work to declare their assets so that it's known what they own, it's known what they've acquired during the time they will be at work. This is what we are doing, and we're inviting the people to attend these public hearings in Lupane on Monday, in Kwanda on Tuesday, in Bulawayo on Wednesday. We will then proceed to Mashingo, Midlands, and the rest of the country. I think.
In economic news, Finance Minister Ncube has admitted a previous blunder in introducing the Zimdollar without the necessary economic foundations. Speaking about the new ZiG currency, he called it a marathon, not a sprint, softening the government's earlier stance on its acceptance. Cement manufacturer PPC Zimbabwe reports a 22% surge in sales volumes. The company credits a government tariff on imports for boosting local demand. Despite a planned shutdown for upgrades, PPC has declared a $20 million dividend for the first half of the year. And in news from local communities, a 15-year-old boy from Nkulumane has been sentenced to 3 years at a juvenile training center for stealing a car. The Honda Fit, valued at $3,500, was taken from a car park earlier this month but has since been recovered. A Bulawayo magistrate said the sentence was meant to rehabilitate the teenager, not to punish him. Zimdancehall artist Ras Pompy has been sentenced to 6 months in prison for possessing illegal cough syrups. Police report that the artist led them on a high-speed chase through Harare last month before crashing his vehicle, where the banned substances were discovered. The musician, who rose to fame as a child star with hits like Nziradzewa Koma, was convicted under the Medicines Control Act. Fans have expressed shock at the sentence, calling for his rehabilitation and return to music. In international news, around 100 buffaloes drowned in the Chobe River on Monday night near Kabulabula in Namibia's Zambezi region. Authorities say investigations are underway, though past incidents have been linked to stampedes during river crossings. The Chobe River, which borders Namibia and Botswana, often sees mass drownings, especially in the dry season. In 2018, over 400 buffaloes died similarly, and more than 100 perished last year while fleeing lions. Locals gathered on Tuesday to collect meat, but officials are urging caution as conservationists warn of possible river pollution and increased predator activity near settlements. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has renewed his country's support for a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Speaking at a UN summit, he called for a Palestinian state alongside Israel based on 1967 borders. Several countries recently recognized Palestinian statehood, but Israel and the US boycotted the meeting, calling it a circus. The summit is unlikely to change conditions on the ground. And finally, in sports news, Ousmane Dembele of PSG won the 2025 Ballon d'Or last night in Paris, hailed for his standout season at both club and country. Also in the spotlight was Barcelona's rising star Lamine Yamal, who took home the Copa Trophy for the best under-21 player, his second year in a row. In his acceptance speech, Dembele praised Yamal's maturity and performance among the strong field of contenders. To end this news bulletin, here are the headlines once again. President Chamisa hints at major political shift, the birth of a new great Zimbabwe. Citizens warned not to be distracted by ZANU-PF factional fights. And Honorable Chibaya blames government for economic and healthcare collapse. And that concludes our bulletin for today. We thank you for listening. From myself, Divine Nambira, and the entire team at Change Radio, we wish you a blessed night.